So next problem I came up against was the end float, and I think this was causing me a lot of trouble later on when I've almost got it all assembled. I've come to put it all together, and I think my end float was just too tight, and that had a further knock-on effect down the line, whereby the input shaft, even when in neutral, was actually turning and the output shaft was turning. So I've gone back and I've reset. You can see I've got different shims on this time, and same with the actual lay shaft as well. I've rejigged those. I thought I'd done them quite well using the old spacers. I thought they were quite tight, but with hindsight I think they were too tight. So hopefully I've got it right this time around, and when I come to put it back together, which I'm going to do tomorrow, then hopefully everything will tie in nicely. That's the theory anyway. So that was another problem. Make sure you spend a bit of time doing these, because if they are wrong, it's going to just give you more problems further down the line. Right, next problem, the selector shaft. God, did this cause me trouble. I actually ended up splitting mine when I took it off, and because of that I didn't know which way around it went. I looked at pictures, I've studied other people's, and I came to the conclusion, wrongly, of which way around it should go. So let me just give a few pointers on this one, so hopefully it'll save you lots of trouble. I got it all mine assembled, then realised this was the wrong way around, and yeah, I wasn't happy, to say the least. Every time you have to take it apart again, you have to take that 5th gear lock nut off, and that is a real pain. It's a pain to get on and it's a pain to get off, so make sure you assemble it right the first time, and then you won't be doing what I'm doing for about the 5th or 6th time. Can't even tell you how many times I've reassembled this. The only good thing is I know how to do this blindfolded now. This is a good thing, bad thing. Right, let's have a look at this. This is how it should be, or I'm going to make it as clear as I possibly can, and if you just get these slots the right way around, then you're going to be okay shape to sort it out, even if you don't put it together right, if that makes sense. So first of all, this guy here, you need to make sure these two lugs face up over, so you've got the slot on this side and those lugs facing up over. If you get it the other way, where you can reverse that, if you turn it round 180 degrees, you'll end up where you've got these two bits on the top and that on the bottom. You do not want that, because then you are in a whole world of messing about and rejigging it. So make sure the slot is there, set up like that. I'll assemble it here so it makes a bit more sense. Let's rejig it a bit. So when you come to reassemble it, the manual's a bit vague again. It's a little bit ambiguous, but it is quite simple. Once you've done it once, you'll sort of know what it means. So you need to select the, let me think, is that first and second? First and second gear needs to be over the pin like that. Third and fourth, you need to set this up so that this guy is in the slot. It doesn't matter where, as long as it's in the slot you can sort it out, but just make sure the pin's like that, that's in the slot. And then what you're going to do, you're going to take this guy over and he's going to slide over. It's hard to do it one-handed. Come on. It's going to slide over the slot and it's going to sit on top of it like that. Now you need to line up, or I would best line that all up so that the pin and this are all in line like that. See, the pin is lined up with that guy and lined up with the two slots on the selectors, and then you'll end up with, let me turn it, so that's the setup you're going to end with. Hopefully that makes it a bit clearer. as long as you get this again the right way up and the slot on the right way, you can sort of sort it all out once you got it in position. If you can keep it in that position, it just makes it a lot easier for putting on. Just note the orientation again of these, you can't really get those wrong. They're pretty simple to do. The old part that wears, but well, I mean, it shouldn't be that worn. Next up is the front setup, which is this thing here. That's a selector for the front one, which is the reverse and the 5th gear. This is equal either way around. It's all symmetrical, so it doesn't really matter which way that one goes on. Alright, so that's the setup for this guy here. You see the way that the pin sits in the actual slot, and this can rotate all the way around. And if you look at the back one, again, it's all free moving because it all goes through the slot with the pin. It's a bit fiddly this, but it will be held in place by those spool retainers, and hopefully it should all tie in. So this is how I'm going to assemble it. We're in the process of assembling it. I don't have a vise that's big enough to hold it, so I do on the floor like this. I've got the input shaft needs to be on when you tie all this down together, otherwise you end up being not able to get this underneath this cog on the lay shaft. So make sure you got your input shaft on, and I fed everything through the center plate. You need the selector set up on without the front part on, so hopefully you should be in somewhere like that position. I'm going to start putting the cogs on for the reverse and the 5th, and also on the lay shaft. This one has a circlip on, and also make sure you put a spacer. There is a spacer that goes on here before the actual reverse gear goes on. I'll dig that out. Alright, so it's a spacer on mine. This is supposed to be a selectable spacer, and what that does, it pushes the reverse gear away so it's not dragging on the casing here. I just used the one that came off. It seems to work fine because there's meant to be no play. When you couldn't put the circlip on, there's meant to be absolutely no play or no gap between the circlip and the gear, or the selector I should say. So I'll get all this pulled together. I've just got it loosely held at the moment, and I'll get it tied in and then try and get the circlip on, which is a bit tricky, I've got to say, but it is possible. I'm going to oil all this up before I put it all back properly. Now when this guy goes on, the selector, you need to make sure, let me get it in the right way around. That's 5, so it needs to go that way. And you need to make sure that this selector sits on it, otherwise you won't be able to get it on because of the other gearing. So we've got that set up like that. We're going to put this gear on as well, makes it easier. So put this gear on. Again, it has to go a specific way around. If you just match it up and make sure that it meshes with that one there. You can see it, if I put it the wrong way around, it won't mesh, so it can only go one way around. So we'll get him on. And hopefully start bringing it all together. That'll go on there, needs to be pushed all the way in. I can't do it at the moment with one hand, but oh, there we go, just slot in. Just make sure you go in a particular order with these, otherwise you get locked out whereby you can't get one gear on because of the other one. So that one's on, out the way. The last one to go on here will be the 5th gear, but you can slide that on easy enough at the last possible moment. So next up, we're lining this guy up. Note mine has the 5 symbols going towards the reverse gear, which goes against convention and the manual, but that's the way it came off, that's the way it works, and that's the way it's going back on. You need to put this on with the brass selector on, which I've got lined up, and also this needs to go on as well. So we'll jiggle him on. I'm pretty sure I can sort that out when it's on, so you don't have to worry too much about lining this one up. You just have to make sure that you've got your brass selector on, and hopefully I can slide all this gear on in one. Come on. A piece of wood's in the way again. And this should all slide up. Right, so that's a little bit fiddly one-handed, but you can see how it goes on, and make sure your Bach ring lines up and goes inside of this collar, and that should all snap down together. With a bit of encouragement, there you go. And hopefully that's going to get us somewhere near. Next up, we need to put the Circlip on. I'm going to have to do that one-handed because it is quite fiddly to do, and all of this needs to be pulled out in one. So I'll have to put the camera down for that, but I'll show you with the Circlip in place. Alright, so there we go. There's the Circlip on, and you can see how little gap there is. All of this stuff has to be super tight. If it moves around, then it's just going to destroy your gears. So you can see how little play there is there. I think it's something like 0.0000000. A couple more knots, but you get the idea. It's seriously close tolerances. If you have any movement in there whatsoever, then you need to repack it out with a bigger spacer. So next up we have the 5th gear with its Bach ring and a roller bearing, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do this one-handed, but let's have a look. I have to be careful with these. I've had them on and off so many times, they're in danger of breaking them. Make sure that's clean. There we go, needled roller bearing, and put on Bach ring again, make sure it's the right one, and it should fit in there pretty nicely. And just checking these clean, it's good enough. Don't force any of this stuff, it just goes on without much effort. There you go. And then finally, somewhere around here, I have the 5th gear. And here he is, lay shaft, 5th gear, with a spacer. Make sure it goes in the right way, you can't really get that wrong. Again, this should just slide on. A bit of shaking around, it should slide over that gear. It's not at the best angle at the moment. You get the idea. I'll have to use 2 hands to do this. You have to hold the lay shaft up a little bit. It's not in its right location at the moment. Oh, that might help. So that slides on there. So there we go. Next up, you would normally have this, but you can see this is the stake nut, and it is super tight. Again, you have to just use whatever you got at your disposal. I'm going to lock the gears off on mine, and then I'm going to put the extension casing on and use all of that to keep it aligned, and all I do then is crank that as tight as I possibly can, and then a little bit more. There's no way I can do it with a extension bar with a meter on to set the torque settings. Just impossible. I just cannot get the leverage on it. If you can't get the leverage on it, the whole box tips over. You need to somehow get someone to sit on the box and someone else to torque it up, but I just do it as hard as I possibly can, and hopefully that will be good enough.